all week, snow levels are continuing to change, and while this may not be a major snowfall,
I love taking photos after a fresh snowfall. Everything that goes into it is exciting for me, whether it's tracking the storm, listening to weather reports, and all the other planning, making sure everything's right. It has to be right after a fresh snowfall, not too warm so the snow doesn't melt, not too windy so the snow doesn't fall off the trees, and it also can't be snowing too heavily so you don't damage your camera gear. Everything has to be just right, and for the first time this winter, all those things are lining up. The following morning, everything was perfect. The wind was calm, all the snow was still on the trees, so I quickly packed off my car and headed to one of my favorite places in Pennsylvania, Hickory Run State Park. One of my favorite things about coming here after a fresh snowfall is it's just so quiet. Like, I don't know what it is. Just right after a snowfall, it just seems so peaceful and everything is just so calm. I'm not really the biggest fan of winter overall, but every year we get something like this and it makes it quite a bit better. There's just something about walking through the woods after a snowfall. It's very meditative. It really helps me creatively and really relaxes me quite a bit. It also transforms places like I've been before, like Hickory Run, like where we're at today, and transforms it into like this winter wonderland. Like, you just see these massive branches weighed down by snow, and the snow-covered trees look so beautiful. You're walking through the woods, you can barely hear anything but your own footsteps. And it's truly one of the favorite things I like to do in the winter with my camera. I think one of the perfect ways to complement the peace you feel after a fresh snowfall is minimalist photos. Keeping photos simple, like singular standing trees. Any single subject that stands out, I feel like simple photos really helps translate how peaceful it is right after snow. And it makes those photos just feel a bit more dramatic with the simplicity of the white around you. See, this is what I'm talking about. A stream like this, it's peaceful on its own. But in the snow, it feels like another world. Everything just seems, pun intended, frozen in time. A lot of times when I go out to take landscape and nature photography, I go out for the photo. But in the winter, it feels different. It feels like I'm coming out more so for this peacefulness that I'm experiencing. I talk about ND filters a lot on this channel. It's very important for when you're doing things like waterfall photography or want to catch water in general to take that glare away. But it's also extremely important in the snow. Snow is white, so it's very reflective, and sometimes it gets very bright. I'm using an ND filter right now. Let me show you what I mean if you're not familiar with ND filters. All right, let me just screw this off real quick. All right, so this is an ND filter. As you can tell, it got a little bit more bright, a little harsh in the highlights, and this is what's gonna help fix that. It's gonna help you with your exposure if it's too bright out, and it's gonna be bright if you're shooting in snow because of all that reflective material, as well as it's gonna take those highlights down just enough to make it more soft and more pleasant photo to look at. All right, let's go ahead and screw this back on. So if you're wanting to take photos of a fresh snowfall, I definitely recommend getting an ND filter if your camera has the threading for it, because it's going to greatly improve your quality of life out here taking photos of the snow. Now, another cool thing you can do when it's a fresh snowfall or actively snowing out is capture snowflakes in the air. We often talk about long exposure when we're doing something like water, moving water, waterfalls, stuff like that. But if you had the chance during an active snowstorm, you can actually capture snowflakes similarly. Now, the snowstorm's over, so I can't show you this, but I can at least talk you through it. There's two main ways to capture snowfall. The first is capturing them as they're falling. And for this, you're going to try and want to match their speed with your exposure as best as possible. If you have the daylight to do so, try and shoot in 1/500th of a second. And this is going to work very well with big like onion flake type snow where the flakes themselves are pretty big. And you're going to capture them still in air shooting that fast of an exposure. Now on the flip side, using long exposure, you can capture the motion of the snowflake. It almost casts as if like the storm is coming down really hard and it looks really cool. Remember, when you're trying to capture the individual flake, make sure you have something to contrast the background against, like a tree, a moving stream, anything that's not white like snow, because it's not going to show up as well as you want it to. Nature photography, especially right after a fresh snowfall, gives me a sense of peace and clarity of mind. It's times like this where I feel like photography is almost meditative in nature. If you live in an area where there's a chance for snow, I challenge you, get out right after a snowfall, take your camera, take a walk in the woods, feel that peace of mind, and take a bunch of photos along the way. Thanks for watching this video. Please consider hitting that subscribe button, and until next time, I'll catch you in the next one.